بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue with the book Sharh Ad-Durus al-Muhimma, explanation of the important lessons for every Muslim. Important lessons for every Muslim by Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Badr, Hafidhullah's explanation, and we stopped actually at the end of the book before Ramadan. And when we started the class, we didn't start with the actual first lesson. The first lesson of the book is in tafsir, the science of tafsir, explanation of the Quran. We started with a dars al-thani, which is the pillars of Islam, arkan al-Islam, which is basically the description of the arkan al-Islam, and then it goes into aqidah, and then the salat like that. So we'll go back to the beginning of the book, which is a dars al-awwal, surah al-Fatiha wa qisar al-surah. The first lesson is learning Al-Fatiha, the meanings of Al-Fatiha, how to recite Al-Fatiha, and the meanings of the short surahs at the end of the Quran. From Az-Zalzala, the earthquake, down to An-Nas. So this chapter is basically the tafsir of those surahs from including Al-Fatiha, from Al-Fatiha, number one, and then from Az-Zalzala, the earthquake, to the end of the Quran, which is 16 surahs. With Al-Fatiha, 17 surahs with Al-Fatiha. But before we get into the tafsir, we need to know what tafsir is, number one. What is a tafsir? And it's simply, as Shaykh Al-Thamaraat, rahimahullah, says, هو بيان معاني القرآن. It is clarifying the meanings found in the Quran, the meaning of the ayat. As because a person understands the language of Arabic, it doesn't necessitate that they understand the meaning of the ayat, even if they understand Arabic. So some ayat are clear, and some ayat, they're clear in the language, but it may be a story behind why it was revealed, what happened. Asbab al-Nuzul is called. The reasons that ayat was revealed. What was going on at the time of revelation. Exactly. Which is called Asbab al-Nuzul. So the tafsir is important. Tafsir is extremely important. And it comes actually, a tafsir comes under another science which is called Ulum al-Quran, sciences of the Quran. Sciences of the Quran is a whole other science, just like we have fiqh, we have hadith, we have mustalah hadith, we have aqidah, and all of these different sciences. We have the language of Arabic. There's another science called Ulum al-Quran, which discusses the Quran, the miracles of the Quran. Is the surah a Meccan surah, or what they say, Medina surah, the difference between those things. Inside of that science is the discussion of a tafsir. So we'll do a brief intro on exactly what is a tafsir and its importance. And most of this is extracted from Shaykh Al-Thamaraat's book, as he has a book, Muqaddimah, Usul al-Tafsir, Foundations of Tafsir. And another book by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, Muqaddimah fi Usul al-Tafsir, his introduction to the foundations of the tafsir. So here, from the first things, the ruling on learning the tafsir of the Quran, the ruling on learning the explanation of the Quran. And Shaykh Al-Thamaraat, rahimahullah, he says, Ta'allum al-tafsir wajib. It's obligatory to learn the meanings of the ayat. لقوله تعالى, and he mentions two ayat. Allah says, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Allah said, a book full of blessings that we have revealed to you so that people can ponder over the ayat, and so that people of intellect can be reminded to ponder over the ayat. The ayat of the Quran is what it says in the first ayat. It says, wajh dilala, the angle of proof. How does this ayat prove that learning tafsir is obligatory? He says, أن الله بين أن الحكمة من إنزال هذا القرآن المبارك أن يتدبر الناس آياته. That Allah mentions in the ayat. He said, he mentioned the wisdom. The wisdom in revealing the Quran is that people ponder over its meanings. Not just to recite from front to back or read it like a newspaper or a magazine or any other thing that really, in comparison to the Quran, doesn't hold any weight of importance. He says the hikmah, the wisdom in the revelation is that the revelation is pondered over, is that people ponder over it. التدبر والتدبر هو التأمل في الألفاظ للوصول إلى معانيه. التدبر, pondering, meaning to pay attention, focus on the wording of the ayat, the wording of the verses, so that a person reaches a point where they understand the meanings of the verses. Point is to understand the Quran, number one, and then to implement the Quran. And this is the hikmah, as Allah, He said about the ayat. As Allah says in the ayat, لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, so that they ponder over the verses. The verses are not, Quran was not revealed for decoration, whether it's on the wall, on our clothing. The Quran was revealed, as Allah says, so that people can ponder over the ayat and get the meaning. What does Allah Jalla wa Ala request from me? What is He telling me to do? What is He telling me to stay away from? So He continues and says, وَلِأَنَّهُ لَا يُمْكِنْ الْإِتِّعَاض بِمَا فِي الْقُرْآنِ بِدُونْ فَهْمِ مَعَانِيهِ. He says it is impossible for a person to benefit. A person can't benefit from the Quran without knowing the meanings that are contained in the Quran, showing the importance of the meaning. And the person may say, well, I don't know Arabic, but the Quran is translated in how many languages, and even they have a word for word. There's a word for word translation. Every word, they have translated every word to bring the person who may not understand the language of Arabic to a closer meaning of the revelation, which should be an encouragement to learn Arabic, as it's not as hard. Arabic is not as hard to learn as it may seem. It doesn't take as long as a person may think. It's not as hard as it may seem. And then he brings a second ayah, showing the obligation of learning the tafsir, the meaning of the Quran. He says, وَلِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا, which is in Surah Muhammad, where Allah says, do they not ponder over the Quran, or are their hearts sealed? Are their hearts sealed closed, whereas though they can't get any benefit, where goodness and benefit is prevented from reaching their hearts? He said, this ayah shows that when Allah asks a question like this, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, don't you ponder over the Quran? He says this is a form of being reprimanded or rebuking the people that do not ponder over the Quran. It's not something praiseworthy. It's not praiseworthy to leave off reflecting and pondering over the Quran. And if you look at the Sahaba and how they learned the Quran, it becomes clear how the Sahaba and how the Prophet ﷺ taught them the Quran And if we compare ourselves to them, we'll see a big difference. He says, and also in this ayah, وَأَشَارَ إِلَى أَنَّ ذَلِكَ إِقْفَالٌ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ وَعَدَمُ وُصُولِ الْخَيْرِ إِلَيْهَا. And it shows also, by not pondering, it is as if there's been a block or a lock placed on the person's heart where they can't receive any goodness. No khayr, no good will reach that heart based on not pondering and reflecting over the ayah of the Quran. The book of Revelation, the Quran is revelation. And if we know it's revelation, and we know the importance of the Quran and the level as it comes in Ijaz of Quran, the miracles contained in the Quran, that during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, as it comes in the seerah, that when the Prophet ﷺ would read the Quran during his time to the Arabs, and they understood Arabic, even though they weren't Muslims, they understood Arabic clear. And they were into poetry. Poetry was like a big thing. They would go down to the Kaaba, and everybody would go there and they would recite poetry. And there might be 100 lines of poetry, 50 lines of poetry. He's reading poetry, and the next person standing next to him is memorizing his poetry. As he's saying it, he's memorizing it. Like battling, almost like battling, see who has the best poetry. So when the Prophet ﷺ would come and read the Quran, they knew, and these are Kuffar Quraysh. They weren't Muslim. They didn't believe in the Quran at the time, but they knew that what he was reciting wasn't poetry. Because that's what they did. We do poetry all day long. When he's reciting, a man can't do that on his own. So therefore, they said he must be crazy. He must be touched by, he must be doing magic. He's trying to put magic on us. Because they knew how heavy the wording and the meanings contained in the ayah that they heard. And that's just off the language itself. As some of the ayat are clear. If you understand the language of Arabic, some of the ayat are clear. They may not need much explanation, but some of the ayat may need more explanation than others. So when the Prophet ﷺ would come and read those ayat, they knew it wasn't something that he made up on his own. So they called him names. He must be a magician. Or he's crazy. He's trying to put magic on us. Because that right there, what he's reciting, is not from a man. It's not man-made, which shows the level of the Quran. He says, وَكَانَ السَّلَفُ الْأُمَّةِ عَلَى تِلْكَ الطَّرِيقَ الْوَاجِبَةِ يتعلمون القرآن ألفاظه معانيه لأنهم بذلك يتمكنون من العمل بالقرآن على مراد الله به. That the Salaf they understood that learning the tafsir, the meanings of the ayah, they understood that it was obligatory. So therefore they would learn the wording, as well as the meanings. For what reason? By learning the wordings and the meanings, that they were able to act upon the Quran according to what Allah Jalla wa'ala wants from the person who hears the Quran. Now act upon the Quran based on what you understand, or what I understand. But what is the goal behind the ayah? What is the intention behind the ayah? What does Allah really want from me in this ayah? Right? As we all know, we can all read based on our own personal understandings. But is what I understand, is that what was intended behind the revelation of the ayah, and that's the importance of tafsir. He says, فَإِنَّ الْعَمَلَ بِمَا لَا يَعْرِفْ مَعْنَاهُ غَيْرُ مُمْكِنٍ. As a person cannot act on something if they don't know the meaning of the thing. What does it mean? That may be their understanding of what it means to follow the messenger. But the importance of the tafsir is, what does it mean? Ittiba' al-Rasul. Follow him in what? Not just what the person assumes following is, but that's the importance of going back to the tafsir of the ayah, going back to how the Sahaba understood the ayah, and what was understood by following the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So he says in another portion, and he mentions Turuq al-Tafsir al-Quran. How is the Quran explained? as there are different ways to explain the Quran. One way is, does anybody know a famous way that the Quran is explained?
Quran is explained by Quran.
By Quran. The most famous way, if a person says, if you hear tafsir of the Quran, what comes to your mind first is a better question. What's the first thing that comes to your mind if we want to talk about the explanation of the ayat? Who's explaining the ayat? Who explains the ayat of the Quran? Ayat, the verse of the Quran. Tayyib, Allah explains. So Allah explains the verse of the Quran. Tayyib, what if we don't find anything in the Quran explaining the Quran? There you go. Like that, exactly like that. The first way that the Quran is explained is the Quran is explained with the Quran. That the Quran is explained with the Quran. And this portion is taken from Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah's book, Muqaddimah fi Tafsir, the introduction to the Usul al-Tafsir, where he says, إن أصح الطرق في ذلك أن يفسر القرآن بالقرآن. The most authentic or the best way to explain the verse in the Quran is that if there's another verse in the Quran that explains that verse, which shows the importance of having knowledge of more than one portion of the Quran. Yes, there's an ayat in Juz Amma, but there's also an ayat in Juz Baqarah pertaining to the same issue. There's an ayat in Juz Dariyat and Ahzab, and there are ayat throughout the Quran. So a person is not able to bring all of those ayat together based on the issue, then they're going to come up with a naqis natija. That the final understanding that they come up with is going to be deficient. Why? Because they left off some of the ayat pertaining to the issue. And this shows the seriousness of explaining the Quran and the job of the scholars in explaining the Quran. People like Ibn Kathir, Rahimahullah, Imam al-Tabari, Imam al-Qurtubi, those books that are depended upon when it comes to tafsir, that is not something easy. You got to know the book. You have to know the Quran. You have to know the ayat that pertain to the topic. He says, why is that? فَمَا أُجْمِلْ في مكان فإنه قد فسر في موضع آخر. Because what is mentioned generally in one verse, right? Allah may mention something general in one verse, but in another verse he speaks about the same thing in detail. So that second verse explains the first verse, where the first verse was a little general, but the second verse gives detail. Or ما اختصر في مكان فقد بسط في موضع آخر. Or where Allah may summarize something in one verse, another verse he may go into more detail. And this is tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. And we won't go into too much detail because this type of topic is a whole, we're just glazing over the top. As tafsir comes really at the end. It comes at the end of the book of Usul al-Quran. It's a whole book before, a whole bunch of things before this. But just so we know how do the scholars of tafsir explain the Quran. So Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah says after that, فَإِنْ أَعْيَاكَ ذَلِكَ. If you're not able to, a person exhausts all of their options as far as explaining the ayat with another ayat. They don't find any explanation in the Quran for this verse. He says, فَعَلَيْكَ بِالسُّنَّةِ. Then a person is to go to next the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَإِنَّهَا شَارِحَةٌ لِلْقُرْآنِ مُوَضِّحَةٌ لَهُ. As the sunnah explains the Quran and it clarifies it, which that in itself shows for those who believe that the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not important, or those who belittle the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that they've mistaken, as the sunnah clarifies the Quran in those areas that need clarity. If it's not found in the Quran itself, then it's found in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he warned us in a hadith that there will come a time, it comes in a hadith that there will come a time where people will sit back, he says, on their couches, and they will say, alayka, what is upon you to take is what's in this Quran, with the intent to leave off the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That comes in the hadith, that there will come a people who will try to belittle the sunnah as if the sunnah is not a form of revelation. So this is not from his statement or my statement. There's a hadith that talks about the people that will come and try to belittle the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But the sunnah is, as he says, shariha lil Quran. The sunnah explains the Quran. And there's different ways that that's done. He says, بل قد قال الإمام أبو عبد الله محمد ibn Idris al-Shafi'i. Imam al-Shafi'i, we all know Imam al-Shafi'i. Imam al-Shafi'i, in sequential order, as far as the dates, was the third from the Imams, from the four Imams. After Imam Abu Hanifa, and after Imam Malik, it was Imam al-Shafi'i. He was the third one, the Shafi'i, the method of Shafi'iyya. Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, كل ما حكم به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فهو مما فهمه من القرآن. That everything that the Prophet, every ruling, the rulings that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم would give, those rulings that he gave were based on his understanding of the Quran. The Sunnah, the importance of the Sunnah. And Allah says in the Quran, وقال تعالى إنا أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ. That Allah says that indeed we have revealed to you this book of truth, in order that you may clarify to the people, which is the job of the Prophet ﷺ, to clarify to the people بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ, what Allah has taught you, which is in Surah An-Nisa, ayah 105. So after explaining the Quran with the Quran, and they don't find anything in the Sunnah, where do they go? There's no verse in the Quran, there's no hadith explaining the ayah. Take a wild guess. Huh?
That which the companions agreed upon.
There you go. Aqwal al-Sahaba. The statements of the Sahaba. With the companions, statements of the Sahaba. That, as he says, either including the four Imams and including those from the Sahaba, the Khulafa, the four Khalifas, that the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were there when revelation was being revealed. So who would know better the situation? Who would know the reason for the revelation at that time better than them? And we won't go into too much detail on that, but there's a narration. We'll leave that. After the Sahaba, where the explanation is not found in the Quran, it's not found in the Sunnah. There's no statement of the Sahaba discussing the verse. At that point, we return to the statements of who will be the next in line. Abu Bakr from the Sahaba. The Tabi'een, the students of the Sahaba. Right? It's not in the Quran, it's not in the Sunnah, we don't find a statement from the Sahaba. What about their students? He says, إذا لم تجد التفسير في القرآن ولا في السنة ولا وجدته عن الصحابة فقد رجع كثير من الأئمة في ذلك إلى أقوال التابعين كمجاهد فإنه كان آية في التفسير. He said after that, it's not found in the Quran, not Sunnah, no statement from the Sahaba. Then they go to the Tabi'een, the students of the Sahaba, and there are many of them, like Mujahid. Mujahid is famous for his explanation of the Quran. He says, and he was from the people who are from the scholars of Tafsir, Mujahid. And he says, and this shows, and these are the type of, this is the example that was left for the Ummah from the early scholars of Islam, from the Sahaba on down. He says, كما قال محمد ibn Ishaq, حدثنا أبان ibn Salih عن مجاهد. Mujahid said, Mujahid is known for his explanation of the Quran. Mujahid said, أردت المصحف على ابن عباس 3 أرضات من فاتحته إلى خاتمته. He said, أوقفه عند كل آية منه وأسأله عنها. Mujahid said he read the Quran, he went through the Quran with Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma. Ibn Abbas was famous, anybody know what Ibn Abbas was famous for? Tafsir. So this is Mujahid from the students of the Sahaba, showing the importance of going to the people who know better than you, returning back to the ulama, out of them, the people of knowledge. He said, I read the Quran from Al-Fatiha to the end of it, to Ibn Abbas, 3 times. 3 times he sat with Ibn Abbas and read the Quran. Min Fatihatihi, from the opening, he says, ila khatimatihi, to the end of it. He said, I would stop him at every ayat, and I would ask him about the meaning of the ayat throughout the whole Quran. This is the importance they gave to the tafsir in the Quran. Allahu musta'an. Allahu musta'an. طيب. He says after that, and this is the 4th طريقة الرابعة, tafsir al-Quran bi-aqwal al-tabi'in. After tafsir, explaining the Quran with the Quran, or explaining the Quran if it's not found with the Sunnah, if it's not found in the Sunnah with the statement of some of the companions. After that, if no statement of the companions is found, the statement of the tabi'in, the students of the companions. He says, and after that, الطريقة الخامسة تفسير القرآن باللغة العربية, explaining the Quran with the Arabic language. ذلك لأن القرآن نزل باللغة العربية. The Quran was revealed in the language of Arabic. فإذا لم يكن هناك عرف شرعي يخالف مقتضى اللغة أخذنا باللغة. As long as, for example, the Arabic may say one thing, but the meaning of the ayat, based on narrations, based on explanation of the Prophet ﷺ, based on other ayat, the meaning of the ayat may mean something deeper than what the language says, right? There may be more to it than just what the language reads, basically, right? It could be more. Like, as long as the language doesn't go against what's found in the Sunnah, the explanation in the Sunnah. For example, the Prophet ﷺ explains the ayat to mean one thing. If you took the meaning of the ayat in Arabic alone by itself, it may mean the opposite of what the Prophet ﷺ said. Then which one goes first, takes precedence? The statement of the Prophet ﷺ takes precedence over mujarrad, the language by itself. Or there's an ayat that explains another ayat. But if you read the Arabic alone goes against the meaning of all of the ayats combined. All of the ayats combined, they point to one meaning. The language by itself points to a meaning opposite of that. Which one takes precedence? The ayat that explain each other, the Quran. So the Lugha Arabiya is like, we say, the last thing, as long as it doesn't go against the things that came before it. The things that came before it. And those are the 5 ways that are mentioned as far as explaining the Quran. As Allah says, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. We have made the Quran in Arabic, in the Arabic language, in hopes that you would understand. It shows the importance of the Arabic language, as there's nothing like hearing the revelation in the language that was revealed. And this is why in those ayat that the Kuffar Quraysh heard, and they said, when the ayats of Tawheed, discussing Tawheed and La ilaha illallah, they said to the Prophet ﷺ, as Allah says in the Quran, are you trying to change our gods into one God? Some of the ayat are clear what's intended by it. It didn't take, as the Prophet ﷺ, he wasn't talking to scholars. He was talking to regular people, and they understood a lot of the Quran. It was clear. He was talking to regular people, and they understood the meaning of the Quran. And therefore they said, are you trying to change? Are you trying to make all of our gods into one God? And they said, this is something that is strange. for you to come with this message that's going to take and change their belief system in totality. And they understood that based on the language itself. And that shows some of the ayat. Some of the ayat are clear. Some of the ayat are clear. But this first portion, it says, Ad-Dars al-Awwal, the first lesson, Surah Al-Fatiha wa Qisar al-Surah. Surah Al-Fatiha, the meaning of Surah Al-Fatiha, and the short surah starting from Az-Zalzala to An-Nas. So he says, Shaykh Abdul Razak, Hafidahullah, he says, وَيَفْتَرَحُ أن يكون التعليم لقصار السور من سورة الزلزلة إلى سورة الناس وأن هذا قدر كاف للعوام ليؤدوا بها صلاتهم فرضها ونفلها بما في ذلك قيام الليل. That these surahs, this portion of the Quran, from the earthquake on back, was about 16 surahs, not including the Fatiha. With Fatiha 17. We need the Fatiha for every rak'ah. These 16 surahs, he says, this is enough for a person to be able to complete their obligatory salah. It's enough to be able to complete their obligatory salah. And if they wanted to stand and pray extra salah at night, this is enough. These surahs here are enough. And it's something short. And this is, as he says, this is an encouragement. This is an encouragement from the author, from Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah. It's an encouragement to push people to say, you know, I can do that. 16 surahs, I can do 16 surahs. It's an encouragement. As if a person memorized these 16, they can fulfill their obligation. And if they wanted to stand at night, they can stand at night with those 16. As he said, even if he was to recite the same surahs over and over, if he wanted to stand in the middle of the night. It's enough. He said, وتكون طريقة في تعليمها للعوام على النحو ما بينا. Because Shaykh bin Baz mentions 4 things. He says that they learn these surahs. He says تلقينا. Then he says وتصحيحا للقراءة تحفيظا وشرحا لما يجب فهمه. That they learn these 4 things for these surahs. The first thing on الخطوة الأولى التلقين, that they learn these surahs from the earthquake down تلقينا, which means يلقنه الإمام أو المقرئ أو الحافظ هذه السورة آية آية. That the person sits, it shows that it takes effort. It doesn't just, it's not enough. The Quran cannot be learned on your own. You can't learn the Quran on your own. That a person sits, and as he says, the Imam or the Hafiz, the person teaching, he reads the ayah to him. Marra marratain, again and again, he reads the ayah to him. And they listen. He says, فَالْقُرْآنْ يُخَذْ بِالتَّلْقِينِ. The Quran is taken, this is how the Quran is learned. That the person listens to somebody who's already skilled. Somebody who's already skilled. They know how to recite the Quran, they know the rules of tajweed. You're talking about just recitation now. That a person takes from a person who's skilled in the recitation of the Quran. They don't have to know all 10 or 6 different qira'at, but they're skilled in the correct pronunciation of the Quran. This is the first step. That they take it from a person who's skilled in qira'ah, is skilled in Quran. And the Shaykh, or the Imam, he might read it over, he might read the ayah to him over and over, however many times is needed, right? He says, secondly, after that, بعد ذلك يقرؤون ما سمعوه, that the person after that should read what he heard from the teacher. Should read what they heard from the teacher, which shows the importance again of learning Arabic, as it's easier to memorize if you can read it. It's harder to memorize if you can't read the Arabic. But if you can read the Arabic, and it doesn't mean that your Arabic has to be, or your reading has to be like top notch. It doesn't have to be like on 100%, but it makes it easier in totality to read it because you know what you're looking at. That sound that he's making, you know the letter. Right? You know, okay, that's a qaf. Qaf comes from deeper in the throat. That's da, it has a little fuzziness to it. That's da. Right? You know those things, so when he says it, when you can read it, it's easier for tongue placement, and it makes the whole process easier. But that's the second step. After listening, the second step is that the person reads it. He says, وَيَكُونُ الْإِمَامُ أَوْ مُحَفِّظ بِتَصْحِيحِ قِرَاءَتِهِمْ. And therefore, while they're reading, the teacher is able to correct them if they read it wrong. And what's the benefit of that? The benefit of that is when the student leaves, that they can still go wherever they go and they can still read it again. But if you can't read it sometimes, when you leave, you might forget exactly, how did he say that again? You can't remember exactly how he said it. And you don't have anything to return back to do it over. Right? And therefore, once he reads it, it's possible he could hear something and he reads it wrong. It's possible. He might hear it, he heard him clearly, but when he goes to read it, he reads it wrong. Therefore, even after hearing it, he reads it back to the sheikh, and the sheikh corrects him just in case he's reading it wrong. Because there's some things in Arabic that are written on the page, but it's not read. Right? Some things are written, but they're not read. Some things are written, but they're not read. So, it may be something there that's written on the page, but you're not supposed to read that. Yeah. Right? It's simple, something simple like huruf al-shamsiyah. Right? Huruf al-shamsiyah, huruf al-qamariyah. Depending on the letter coming after the alif lam. It's an alif lam written there. What are you talking about? Yeah. It's an alif lam written there. Right? But depending on the letter coming after the alif lam, you don't pronounce the lam at that point. Right? It's written on the page. The person, he can read Arabic or she can read Arabic. They heard the sheikh read it to them. But when they go to read it, they read a mistake, which is possible. So therefore, at that point, the sheikh is there still to correct them, which shows the diqqah, how precise and how Allah preserved the book, how Allah preserved the Quran. Because, alhamdulillah, it's amazing that you find people, they don't understand Arabic. But if you read an ayah wrong, they can correct you. I know there was a brother in my class, he was from Britain. Hassan. And we were in a language program together, and it was difficult for him. He was a hafiz. He memorized the Quran front to back. He said when he was 10, his dad took him out of school for 2 years. So his dad took him out of school for 2 years, and he went and sat with a sheikh for 5 or 6 days a week. So he finished the Quran in 2 years. Hassan went back. He said, when I went back to school, it was like I didn't miss anything. Right? Understanding the Quran was one thing. His Arabic was like, it wasn't that strong. He struggled. It was rough. It was rough for him. And I asked him, I assumed, I said, you know Arabic. You know, I said, you memorize the whole Quran. You don't know that word? He said, no, I don't know that word. To me, it was strange. I thought that, if you memorize the Quran, I thought people understood it. But he memorized it good. But the understanding at that time, because we were in a language program, it wasn't there like that. So one day we were on break, and we were on a half-hour break. So there's a brother walking around the room reciting Quran, practicing, making a review of the Quran. I'm sitting behind the brother, Hassan's sitting behind me. So the brother's reading, he makes a mistake. So when he makes a mistake, everybody knows Hassan's asleep. Hassan jumps up out of his sleep. He said, you made a mistake. Right? So the brother turns and looks at him like, come on, you sleep. You sleep, like, come on. Hassan, man. So they start arguing. They arguing in the class now. You telling me I made a mistake in the Quran, you sleep. So they arguing. So I'm trying to, it's cool, Hassan just chill out, calm it down. So Hassan says, listen, bro. I said, Hassan, you sleep, man. Like, you sleep. He said, bro, I was asleep, but I heard him, he made a mistake. All right? It's amazing. He said, I was asleep, but I heard him, he made a mistake. I couldn't argue with him, because I didn't know the surah anyway. I wasn't listening. Number one, I wasn't listening. Number two, I didn't know the surah anyway that he was reading. So I was just trying to keep but he said, I heard him, he made a mistake. And there are a lot of them like that. You'll find you go to the circles, there's one teacher, he's listening, no exaggeration. There's one teacher sitting there on the pillow like that, and there's 6 people reading to him from different surahs, and they're all reading at the top of their voice. Loud. And he tells them, raise your voice so I can hear you. And if they make a mistake, he stops them. You, again. To the point where I thought, when I first got there, I didn't think that was possible. I went to the sheikh, he was sitting there at the huddle, I went to him, there's 5 people reading to him. I'm trying to register, sign up. He's talking to me and listening to 5 people. I said, come on, man, I'm going somewhere else, because you can't be paying attention to 5 people and you signing me up, asking me where I'm from, where I study at. If somebody says something, he stops and you, again. Yeah, so what was you saying like that? Ajib, strange. Mashallah. But the longer I was there, I said it's normal. For those people it's normal. It's amazing. So the sheikh listens because it's possible. You can read it. You read the Arabic right, but that's not the rule that applies there. So that's the second step. After the sheikh reads it to the person, then secondly, the person reads it on their own, but in front of the teacher, so that if they make a mistake by reading, the teacher can correct them. He says, ثُمَّ تَأْتِي بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ الْمَرْحَلَةُ الثَّالِثَةُ, which is al-hifz. The third level after that is to actually memorize it. After you hear the sheikh read it, and then you read it back to him and make sure you're reading it correct, then you memorize. You don't just go off on your own and start memorizing, right? Which most of us do. It's hard to correct something after you memorize it wrong. We went there, we would go to some classes, we'd go to class. Sheikh said, where you at? Well, I'm on this just. Alhamdulillah, I reached this surah. Alhamdulillah, I'm ready to move on. Sheikh says, let me hear Al-Fatiha. Fatiha, come on, man. Fatiha. You read Al-Fatiha, you find out you got mistakes in your Bismillah. Your Basmalah, you got mistakes in it. He said, A'udhu billahi mina. He said, la, again. A'udhu billahi. He's correcting you on al-isti'adha. How to say A'udhu billahi mina shaitan rajim. Because a lot of us, we memorize on our own. We never get checked. So we memorize it wrong, and then you go and you got to correct it. And sometimes it's harder to correct the mistake than if you were to learn it correctly the first time. So that's why the third thing is al-hifz. Actually sitting to memorize it is after you know that you're saying it correctly. You don't just go start memorizing on your own because you might not be pronouncing it right. Now you memorize 10 surahs and you're pronouncing all 10 of them wrong. So now you gotta relearn those 10, which is, if you read the surah, some people, they read the surah 100 times. They might read one ayah 100 times. It's in there. It's in there however you read it. Now you gotta erase that 100 or so times, or however many times you read it, and replace it with something that's only off. It's only off by one vowel. You're reading a fatha and it's supposed to be a kasra. Now you gotta, that 100 times is out the window. You need to do 100 more with the kasra, because you was reading a fatha the whole time. That happened to me. I memorized the surah. I was reading the surah years. I went and sat with a teacher. He stopped me. I didn't even see it on the page. It's like I never even saw the ayah. That's supposed to be Dhamma. It was like this. It seemed like it was the first time that I looked at the page. And I had been reading the surah for years. But if you don't get checked, that's the importance of getting checked before you start to memorize. So he says the third thing is al-hifz. That the person, they memorize exactly what they were going over with the sheikh. Not that you read, for example, Surah An-Nas, but then when you start memorizing, you're going to go to another surah, start on a You didn't read a Zamzam to him. You don't know if the other surah, you don't know if you're reading it correct. You know you read Surah An-Nas to him correctly, so that's what you memorize. That's what you start your memorization with. When you read another surah and you get corrected, then you start on that surah. And this is a mushkila that we don't really have these type of circles. for our kids and stuff like that, because they learn super fast. They learn super fast. We're going to look up in 10 and 15 years. 15 years already went by. How many of our children are qualified to lead the Salat in Ramadan or outside Ramadan? What do we have even set up so that if Allah calls us back, we don't know who's going to stand and lead the Salat? It's the problem. It's the problem that we don't give importance. We don't give importance to those things that are important. But we give importance to things that are of less importance. They're less importance. It's not saying that this is haram, but it's not as important. I think we have to be balanced. None is all. I don't really know too many people that their kids are not into sports. Sports costs money now. Sports is like a business. You want to play, you got to pay a $100 fee for this. Fees for everything. You go to the field, to the court, bunch of Muslims out there. Bunch of them. Bunch of our women standing out there with black on, and they got their kids out there. 2, 3 of them. Quran class, we ain't paying for the Quran class. Stuff for us should be free out. Number one, how you going to charge us to learn Quran? And if it is free, we still don't bring them. It's free, and we still don't come. But when you come to that sports, they got the new sneaks, they got headbands, they got sleeves, they got all the stuff. You say we have a Quran class for the kids. What time is it again? 2 hours is too long. Hey, football practice is 2 hours. 2 hours, 3 days a week, about 4 or 5 months. And a game on the weekend. Basketball is all year round. Don't stop. We got Quran class on Saturday from 10 to 1. 3 hours. It's like, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. Allah may test us. We look up in 10 years and we don't know what we're going to be against. We're already up against. It's rough now. We don't know what the situation may be. And there's people qualified to teach our kids. There's people qualified to teach. But our priorities are not where they need to be. Not that kids can't play sports, they're kids. But when we die off, Allah calls back, who will lead the Salah? Muslims don't pray. We got somebody not, when they have the ability, the kids, they have the ability, they learn fast. They learn super fast. They learn super fast. And I remember I took my kids one time, it was like an intense program. Most of the programs in Saudi and Mecca, they go from Maghrib to Isha, from Asr, the Quran programs go from Asr to Maghrib. 5 days a week, they free. 5 days a week, pretty much every masjid you ride by, from Asr to Maghrib, 5 days a week, you're going to go in there after Asr, there's going to be a bunch of kids in there sitting reading Quran for free. They don't have to pay, all you got to do is come sign them up. This program was from Asr to Isha, 5 days a week. You're talking about from like 4 o'clock to 9:30. From 4 o'clock to 9:30, 5 days a week, they sit in there reading Quran. Right? So I go there. I say to myself, I don't know if they're going to be able to do this. This is like, they're going to do this, then go to school and come home, I don't know if they're going to be able to hang. So I go the first day, it was long. Second day, wasn't that bad. By the third day, when I went to pick them up, they said, "You here already?" You're talking about 5.5 hours of sitting like that and going around. There's other kids, they're kids. You're talking about 5.5 hours, 5 days a week. You here already? I thought you was going to pray somewhere else and then come. Because we don't, you got to let them, we got to, let the chain off them on that too. We don't know what they're capable of. We don't put them out there and let them sing, just like anything else. And they learn fast, and a lot of those kids, a lot of them, they were not Arabs. They were like Asians, Pakistanis, they don't speak Arabic. They don't speak Arabic. A lot of them didn't know Arabic, but they were in there all doing the same thing. And mashallah, it was a program. It was a good program. It was one of the best programs in Mecca that we didn't even know about. Tayyib. He says after that, after the person, the third step is memorization. Memorizing is not the first step. The third step is that a person sits and then they memorize, they lock it in. That's after they've heard the ayah recited correctly. That's after they've read the ayah back to the shaykh to make sure that they're saying it correctly. Then they sit and they memorize on their own, however many times they need to read it, that they repeat. Whatever is enough for a person, as he says, بعض الناس يحتاج إلى أن يكرر السورة 50 أو 100 مرة. Some people, they have to read the ayah 50 times. Some people, they got to read the ayah 100 times. Or 200. Some people got to read the ayah 200 times. Whatever a person has to do to retain it, then that's on them. Everybody's different. Some people, the memory, mashallah, they might read it 10 times and they move on. Some people have to, might, depending on the person, everybody does what works for them. He says, after that, the fourth marhala, الشرح لما يجب فهمه وتفسير معاني هذه السورة. That the surah is explained, that they get an explanation of the surah and the tafsir of those ayat and what the surah points to or alludes to, starting with Al-Fatiha. Beginning with Al-Fatiha, as Al-Fatiha is from the pillars, from the arkan as-salah, is Al-Fatiha. That the salah, Al-Fatiha has to be read in every rak'ah. So we should know, it's only right that we know what we're saying when we recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And there's so many hadith related to the importance and the status of Al-Fatiha and how serious Al-Fatiha is. So those are the 4 levels that they mentioned. Now, is it possible that a person can learn the Quran on their own? Some people are good like that. Some people are good enough, but at the end of the day, still have to go to someone to get checked. They still have to go to someone to get checked. And you can sit, if you can read Arabic, and you already know Tajweed, then you might be able to sit and memorize, but you can't just move on. Eventually you're gonna have to go to somebody that's more knowledgeable, you more skilled than you in that area, and make sure that you're saying the stuff correctly. And this is how the Quran was preserved. So that now, no person can come, no person, no matter what part of the world you go to, can come and read the ayah incorrectly in the salah without being corrected. That somebody, generally, somebody in the salah, especially if it's a big masjid, is going to correct them if they make a mistake. It might be 3, 4 people correcting them. One time I made a mistake in the salah, there were so many people correcting, I couldn't even hear the ayah. I couldn't correct it because I couldn't hear them. I forgot the ayah. Everybody knew the ayah. It seemed like everybody knew the ayah except me. There was so many people correcting me, I still couldn't hear it. And it took kind of long. It took a little longer than usual, because even when you correcting the imam, there's a certain protocol to that. Everybody can't scream, the imam can't hear. If everybody's screaming out at the same time, the people closer to the imam should be the people correcting the imam. If those people don't know, then the closest. But if it's 3, 4 people screaming at one time, then it's not really, it doesn't work out too good. But that's from the ways that the Quran is preserved, that even if a person they may not understand the tafsir, they might not understand what they're reading, but the Quran is so precise, and the vowels are so precise, and this type of, the way it's learned, taking it from the person who knows who took it from, he took it from someone who taught him, and from someone who taught him with the ijaz and the chain and all that, that nobody can come and just read and just change the Quran like that. They can't do that. It's going to be very difficult. If we hear somebody reading something different, it's possible that a person may come and read with a different mode of recitation that we don't know. That's different. There are different ways you can recite Surah Al-Ikhlas. Maybe we only know one way, but the imam, he knows 3 or 4 ways to read the same surah. Right? So we might think it's a mistake. Say, no, you don't read it like that, which I've seen happen before. He's reading in a different recitation. There's 4 ways to recite it. The people behind him only know one way. He's reading in the third way. So every time he reads the ayat, they screaming out correcting him. He reads it the same way. They scream out and correct him. He's reading it again. They scream out and correct him. So after the salah, he turns around and he tells them I was reading a different Quran, which might not be the best thing to do if the people behind you don't know. If they don't know, then you kind of cause, a problem like that. But point being, the preciseness of the Quran and how serious it is to make sure that we're reciting it properly. Number one, because reciting it improperly could change the meaning of the ayah. Even in Al-Fatiha. We shouldn't take anything from our deen and think that I'm above that. That's not how the Sahaba learned, especially the Quran. As the narrations come to the Sahaba said that they would learn. As he said, I went through the Quran 3 times, front to back with Ibn Abbas. I asked him every ayah, I want to know what it means. And other ayah, they would be on 110, they would take 10 ayat, learn those 10 ayat, and they wouldn't move on until they learned the meaning of the ayat and that they acted upon the ayat. Then they would move on, not just moving on. So the importance of the reading, if you could read one harakah, one vowel could change the meaning of the ayat. One vowel could change the meaning of the ayat, which shows the importance of learning from someone and not learning on our own. But we have to go back, especially with the Quran, you have to go back and make sure, and be checked, and make sure that you're reading it correctly. And those people, those shuyukh who teach the Quran, they love doing it. They love it. Quran, they love it. So they won't be bothered by it, as they love doing that. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Khayrukum man ta'allama al-Quran wa 'allama." The Prophet ﷺ said that the best of you are those who learn the Quran, then they teach it to other people. Khayrukum, that's the best of the people. Those who learn the Quran, and then they teach it to other people. But Allah musta'an, we live in a time, a brother walked up to me and said, y'all get ready for class? Yeah, what y'all doing? I said, reciting Al-Fatiha. Oh no, I'm cool on that. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, it might be. But I mean, that attitude is not the attitude that the Sahaba had. Nah, not the Tabi'een, not the back Tabi'een. I went through the Quran not one time, from front to back. From Al-Fatiha to An-Nas, not one time, 3 times. And I stopped at every ayat, and I asked them, what did it mean? This is how they were. So he says first, after the talqeen, after they hear the ayat, and then secondly, they read the ayat back to the sheikh, or the imam, or whoever's teaching them. Then thirdly, the third level is the memorization. After memorizing, that they sit and that they ponder over those verses and get the explanation of those verses which come in the tafsir. And that's the importance of the tafsir. And he says the first surah that he's going to start with is Surah Al-Fatiha, the Basmalah, where he starts with A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, which is called Al-Isti'adah, which when you go and sit in a Quran class, if you start just with the Basmalah, start from A'udhu billah. Then they explain to you the importance of saying A'udhu billah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Al-Isti'adah. But I don't think we'll start. I think we'll start the Al-Fatiha next week. And we'll stop there. But inshallah, we can work towards building something. Because we're in need of some things that are really, they're basic things in the Islamic, in the community of Muslims. Some things are basic. Some things are like bare minimum. Praying 5 salawat in the masjid is bare minimum. That's bare minimum. It's not really, that's not like extra. Classes on basic, how to be a Muslim basic stuff, that's like bare minimum. Some things are like standard things for the Islamic community. Some things are standard. We're not really doing anything like out of the ordinary. This is like normal. It's normal. It's supposed to be a Quran class. Somebody's supposed to teaching Quran. It's supposed to be Quran. How people want to learn the Quran? How we know the Imam is not here? Then how we know the person second or third is qualified? What if the person that the Imam designates is not there? Right? It don't mean that everybody got to be a hafiz. But it's some things that we all supposed to, there's a level of knowledge that all Muslims are responsible for. We're all responsible for knowing how to recite Al-Fatiha correctly. We all got to pray. We got to recite Al-Fatiha for every salah. Right? At the least, we got to recite Al-Fatiha. So we got to know how to recite Al-Fatiha correctly. We can't think that, and we shouldn't think, because when we used to go sit, we had to go sit in circles. It was a bunch of kids. I got kids older than them I got to sit with and learn. But I mean, it ain't no shyness. You want to learn, you got to put that to the side. I mean, even though they would let us go first. Let the sheikh, they'll call it sheikh, let the sheikh come first, right? But they were kids. We had to sit and learn with kids, and they were afraid. They were way past us. We trying to get out. Again, arudhu. They looking at you. Kids staring at you like that. You don't know how to say arudhu billahi shaitan rajim, right? We thought we knew it. We thought we were moving to the next surah. When we sat and we really got there, oh no. You need to go back. Matter of fact, let me hear this surah. Right? And you start finding a bunch of holes. You might look at somebody else who you might not think they're strong, but there's a guy who used to come to my class. He would come to Quran class, no mushaf, no books, no nothing. Right? He wouldn't even wear a kufi. And that's like, you don't come to class, you don't really come to class with nothing on your head. You gotta at least come with a kufi on. You come with nothing, no books, no kufi, just like he just rolled out of bed. So people looking at him like, look at this guy, man. Right? So I was like, this boy, he out of line. Right? Teacher told him to read Al-Fatiha. MashaAllah, it's good. He said, everybody ought to read Al-Fatiha. So everybody read. I like that. So he read, I'm like, read, all right, but yeah, I know he's going to be a good teacher. Everybody read Al-Fatiha. He get to this dude, he says, hey, read Al-Fatiha. He says, no, I'm cool on Fatiha shit. I'm cool, I ain't. He said, read Al-Fatiha. Nah. I memorized it, I got that. Right? He said, hey. Now, the exercise was reading by looking from Surah Al-Baqarah. So you read, then he's going to stop you, you pick up, stop you, you pick up, stop you, you pick up, just like that. When they got to him, so everybody's sitting there with a mushaf. Alhamdulillah, he called me first. Right? I was happy. I said, Alhamdulillah. He called me first. When he got to this brother, he didn't have a mushaf, no nothing. Gets to him, read Al-Fatiha. Nah, no Al-Fatiha. Didn't read it. He said, Tayyip, continue. He picks up right where the guy before him left off. I'm looking like, dang, mashallah. Right? Based on the looks, I show you can't base stuff like we do. Some of us, we basing stuff on what people look like. Based on the look, he was one of the best people in the class. He was one of the best people in the class. But if you saw him if you basing stuff on what people look like all the time, you're gonna come up short a lot. I learned that the hard way. Because he was one of the best people in the class. No book, no nothing. But when it came to Qira'ah of the Quran, in the middle of Surah Al-Baqarah, he picked up, like it sounded like he does it every day. That's what it sounded like. Allah. But it just shows the importance of the Quran, that we have to give more attention and importance. The best book on the face of the earth, the only book free from no mistakes, is Revelation. Revelation that was sent down to the Prophet ﷺ, that even the Kuffar Quraysh, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they knew something was special. They knew something was special about the Quran. The non-Muslims during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he recited, they knew something was special about it. They knew that wasn't normal. That wasn't your normal speech. And Allah chose us to be Muslims and chose us for this book of guidance that we have to be people that are aware of the ni'mah. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, Al-Quran hujjatan lak or alayk. that the Quran is going to be a proof for you or it's going to be a proof against you. That the Quran is going to be a proof for you or it's going to be a proof against you if you act by the Quran and the revelation. As it says in the explanation of the hadith, the Quran will be a proof for us. And if we don't act upon the revelation, if we don't act upon the guidance of the Quran, then the Quran Yawm al-Qiyamah will be a proof against us. And what excuse do we really have, especially in a town like this, not to learn or make sure that we're reciting the Quran correctly? At the least Al-Fatiha. I don't mean everybody ought to be a half of the Quran, but at the least, we all got to read Al-Fatiha every day. At the least that we read Al-Fatiha correctly. And that some of our children, some of them should be from the Quran. We're going to need doctors. So in 10, 15 years, we're going to need doctors, we're going to need lawyers, we're going to need, construction people, men, we're going to need teachers. If we're going to build something, we're going to need people to teach and lead the Salat too. Lawyers, and they don't lead the Salat. They do what they do, but then there's people who lead the Salat and they don't enter into their thing. It's a balance. But if we're unbalanced, it's going to be problematic at the least. So we'll stop there, inshallah. We'll start next week with tafsir al-Fatiha. Any questions? طيب صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.